The ModernJeeper Show, the show about Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers.
Well, hey, Modern Jeepers, it's another episode of the Modern Jeeper Show with me, Mattson from Metalcloak, and Mr. Modern Jeeper, Corey Osborne.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, and Jesse's back, Rockstar Jeep Girl.
Hey.
Got the long blonde hair.
Yeah, she was gone a really long time.
I know, it's amazing.
Oh, Lordy.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
She was just,
It's the perks.
her head was getting cold because of all the snow.
Yeah, it's the perks of being a hairdresser, you know.
That's great. You just kind of wrap it around your neck, and now you have like instant shawl.
The mask.
Ooh, oh, hair masks.
Hair mask.
You should make those like extensions in your hair that just become a mask and you put it across.
Beard.
Oh yeah. Well, you got those, those what were those beanies you wear that had little face masks inside of them?
Mm-hmm.
I'll just stop shaving and it'll just take over my whole face.
I would actually like to see you do it. I'd like to see us do that.
I could do it.
Well, hey, looks like we have our guest showing up there. Jay Blazier, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good folks. How are you guys?
Good. We're still like just getting oriented for the show, and you're in like Flynn.
Right on, man. Right on. I jump when I jump.
That's nice. So Jesse, you just got back, right? Now, apparently you were freezing your ass off in Oklahoma too, right?
Yeah, it was nothing but ice constantly, and it was cold. So yeah, it was fun driving around everywhere for sure.
Well, and then of course you're back here in snow.
Yeah.
I think we've got about 18 inches on the ground. I had plowed the driveway a couple days ago and it was pretty cleared off. And then this morning we got about another 5. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So how does a modern Jeeper plow his driveway?
With an ATV. ATV with a plow blade on the front.
Nice. What ATV are you running? Polaris.
It's like a 1997 Kawasaki.
They were called ATVs back then.
Yeah, it's a 4-wheeler.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
So part of that thing. Yeah, for our guest Jay, you don't know, but he's got. Well, how big's your shed? Your shed?
Your shed.
Well, the shop is 32 wide and 44 feet long with a 16-foot sidewall. I can keep most of my stuff inside, but right now, I mean, with Jesse's truck and the Metalcloak truck and the Gladiator and a couple of Jeeps and all of my stuff from my mom's house that we ended up bringing back here, it's a little full. So,
wow.
Yeah. I got it. Before we get started, I got to send a shout out to the folks. And I was going to bring this up during our call. A lot of people use Facebook Marketplace in their local areas to get rid of things and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I've dealt with it a little bit before in the past where it's great when you want to try to sell something very specific. And but even then you get a lot of odd questions and dumb questions. I was kind of at my wit's end with my mom's house, and I got frustrated, and I put it on Facebook local for the Grand Junction area. And here's an entire household of items, and I put it on there as free.
Wow.
I wasn't sure how that was going to work out. I did this at 9:00 on Friday night, this last Friday. Saturday morning, it's about an hour and a half drive up to Grand Junction from our house. And so we got up to Grand Junction. There was a U-Haul truck and about 100 pickups out in front of the house.
Wow.
In 3 hours, there was nothing left.
Wow.
Wow. How cool is that?
You know what? And people thanked us. People were respectful. People said, sorry for your loss. And the fact that her items were being used by others, I mean, everything from silverware to beds to chairs to tools, all of it. I didn't know what else to do with it. And I really appreciate, I have 2 things left. I have a piano and a couch. both items, that piano is not going to get lifted by just two people.
What kind of style is it? Just a stand-up piano?
Yeah, regular stand-up piano. But
ship it to me, because my kids want one.
It's about 300 pounds.
Come get it.
You know how many pianos? Look at like Facebook Marketplace. There are pianos all over town that are free. You just got to move it, right? People just don't want to deal with it.
My real estate guy said, you're going to be hard pressed to get rid of a piano because nobody wants to move them. Once they're there, they're kind of there. So
there's an industry called piano movers.
Right. But it was really nice to help me out and help the community out, and people, like I said, were very appreciative and respectful. What a process though, and what a project, and just a shout out to the local Facebook Marketplace people for being that kind of person and showing up and helping somebody out. So
well, and being respectful, and that's huge.
Yeah.
And you wonder about different markets. Like I wonder if I did that in Sacramento, if I'd have the same response. You're still a small town community with a small town attitude, which is great part of America.
Very true.
I'm gonna give a little shout out, only because we're not a political show, but we lost somebody today. Rush Limbaugh passed away today from lung cancer, and from the entire world of people who like to speak, whether it's via podcast or radio. He whether you believed in our listeners, whether you're conservative or liberal, where you sit on the political spectrum, none of that matters. What matters is that he created an entire new industry for radio. He revitalized AM radio. He started out here in Sacramento, so he's kind of near and dear to my heart. I used to listen to him on the local station here, and he built up a show, and then he went national. But he went and did something that nobody else ever done. He took the AM radio daytime slot, and he built it into something that was a powerhouse. It used to be AM radio daytime was nothing. Like you might get these evening shows, these evening talk shows. Larry King and those guys were out about for a long time, but to have a 3-hour show during the day of him just talking was unheard of. And it built up a powerhouse of media. So he finally passed. He's had lung cancer now for, I think it was last year sometime it was announced. And he's kind of fought through it and still was doing shows, but finally lost the battle. So our heart goes out to the Limbaugh family and to all those who were his fans. And I count myself amongst them. He was, he self-described himself as a big, lovable fuzzball who had a lot of beliefs that wanted to, he just wanted to share that out there. So yeah, just somebody who finally kind of, is meeting his maker, and I think that's okay with him.
Yeah.
So, but moving on to friendlier and happier times.
Hey, let's talk about Jeep stuff.
No, we don't do that on the show. We don't talk about
crazy
Jeep
talk.
stuff.
That's crazy talk,
man.
Crazy talk, right?
Because Jeepers talk about everything else. So let's talk about what's happening. Like, because this is amazing. We're sold out on the Death Valley. Like, I was worried about Death Valley. We got Death Valley coming up here in what is like a week and a half.
A week and a half, yeah. And it's been, it's funny that we kind of been a little gun shy about how many people we can have on these trips and that kind of thing. And literally in the last 2 days, we've filled up. So
right. I was like, I tell you guys, you wait till the last minute. I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah, you know what a struggle this is for Mattson. You may not get a shirt. So
well, I thankfully I order little extras, but it is. I'm like, add a shirt.
Now, on some events where we're actually catering and things like that, that could be a challenge. And typically we shut off registration within a couple of weeks. This event's a little bit different. We can kind of fit it in as long as we can stay underneath our permit guidelines. But it's going to be a great trip. And I think, I can't wait to get out of the snow. But it's interesting. Tillamook is essentially full as well.
It's sold out. Yeah.
We've got Moab kind of in the middle there, and I'm guessing it's going to kind of do the same thing. So if folks have been hesitating, these trips are going to start canceling out. Jesse and I were just talking about Colorado this morning, and we still got to do some little bit of groundwork on what that actual experience is going to look like, and we want it to be awesome. But hopefully we'll have the dates up, and registration will open up for that soon as well.
Good, because that's the one I'm going on. Like, I'm
there you go.
First. And by the way, if we launched the Rubicon registration right now, it'd be sold out. I've had enough people say this is a bucket list item, a bucket list item, a bucket list item, that they want to do it. But there's a lot of parameters we still have to work out on that one. It takes a lot more logistics, especially to have the type of experience that we really, really wanted. So that being said, our guest is sitting here politely waiting. Shall we talk to him now, or shall we just keep talking?
I guess we can bring him in. Let's talk to him. See what he's doing. I haven't seen him for a long time.
I thought I was living in the shadows.
I know. It's like
it's been over a year, I think.
Has it been that long? Gosh,
yeah.
man, this whole COVID world. Yeah. So
it's been over a year.
For everybody out there, this is Jay. It's Blazier, right? I mean, it's Blazier or Blazier?
Blazier. I say it's Blazier. We all say Blazier.
Blazier. It's Blazier. Just think of it. He's not Mr. Chevy. He's Mr. Jeep. So Jay Blazier, Stomper Off Road. We've known you for ages because you started out like out here as a customer, and then somehow end up in the middle of no place, and decided to start Stomper Off Road. By the way, what's the weather like there?
Oh, it's pretty miserable right now. So I don't think we've been above 20 degrees and it's probably been 10, 11 days. So,
yuck.
And when I did the 2014 brutal. CTI tour, that was my second stop. My first stop was up in Colorado. My second stop was your shop to see, hey, does people even want to do this? And it was pretty phenomenal. You had a great turnout. You had a barbecue going. I mean, there was there was people everywhere. And I remember we took a few people for a few rides in the JK, and they
we did. That was fun. That was fun too. So
first time to see that suspension work. So hey, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's good to be aboard.
And now you mentioned to me this is like the first time you've been on a podcast.
It is. I'm a noob.
Yeah, but you got the perfect background for it, though. You got the sign up there. This is awesome. Like you're the most professional noob I've ever seen.
Oh, fair enough. I've watched them before. I just never actually been a participant. So
So and Corey, didn't you do how many stops have you done at Stomper over the years?
I try to stop every time we come through. And even we've been there actually a couple times in a year for 1 year. But it's kind of cool because when I get to stop at Jay's shop, it's like stopping with and hanging out with friends for an afternoon. Again, his customers are always very respectful, and they always take very good care of me and us. And even when my dad's with us, I don't think Jesse's been with me.
Yeah. He stopped once.
Okay.
See?
Oh yeah. Okay. I don't know. They'll kind of run together in my head. So
fair enough.
Well, that's my daily life. It's all one giant blur.
Like, right.
Corey's texting me like, "Where you at?" At 9:59, and for all of our listeners out there, we start recording at 10 o'clock, and like he's like, "Where you at?" I'm like, "Oh, oops." So how did you get started? I mean, let's this is all about Jeeps and Jeeping and Jeepers. So let's go back to your history. Like, what was your first Jeep?
First Jeep was actually a Liberty.
All right. This is true confessions.
Jeep on them.
This is true confession.
Okay.
So this is one of my skeletons in my closet. But no, at first one I got was a Liberty. I went to actually I tried to buy one several times, but I was always a little too poor for it. So and then as I advanced in my prior career and everything else, I finally got to a point where I could start buying some Jeeps and newer vehicles and stuff. And so bought a Liberty, and I think within about a year, I guess I'd swapped out of that, and I got my first Wrangler. So from that, I'd always been a car guy, so I'd always tinkered with my stuff and all that stuff, and built my first Jeep. And probably my first couple were I don't know, probably embarrassing as I look back on it in hindsight, but I was falling in love with the things and always had wanted one. So but life always got in the way of it, whether it was having kids at a young age or whatever it was, and so just seems like I finally got my first one. It was what I expected and fell in love with it, and been a Jeeper ever since. So
wow. So your prior career, what was that?
Well, I actually had worked up through. I was an operations manager for a big engineering firm here. At least in my last days there, in my last couple of years. But and so I'd kind of worked up through the corporate ladder, and just kind of felt like at one day I was ready to move away from the corporate world. Felt like I was kind of, towing the line that I didn't necessarily agree with, and so at some point I felt like I was compromising me, and that's something that's always been important to me, is to be me, right, wrong, indifferent, loved, hated, but I'm
Right.
me, and
Right.
it was important to me. So I decided to woke up one morning, told my wife I was going to turn in my notice. She was a little surprised, probably. I'll just say.
That you're still married?
I am. I am.
Okay,
She
so I
stayed
don't
with
want
me.
to.
I don't know. She's crazy, like I am, I guess. No, I mean, we just decided one day that we were actually living in Northern California at the time,
Right. Right.
and which is how I met you guys for the very first time, taking my Jeep up there.
Yeah. What building were we in then when you came by? Were we on in the old Rubicon Express building, or?
You were across the street from the old Rubicon Express, as I recall, or across the parking lot, I believe, still at the time.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
So we were in. Gosh, yeah, we were still in the complex there, where we had like three different spaces to try to
I was gonna say,
make everything work. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that was way back.
it's
Like I said,
been a
it's
minute,
all.
man. I've been a minute, so
It's
I've
been a
been
minute.
a
Hey,
big fan of
I
your
think.
guys for a while.
I think if I look up your account, you're like, number like 40 something or something very low in account numbers. So yeah, that's wild. That's wild. So you get that. So you come out there, you get some, and what did you even get from us then? What was the first parts you bought from us?
You know what? That's the funny part, is that I went out there that day. I didn't actually buy anything while I was there that day, but I got to give you guys props, and that was something that really set up my path. I was having a problem with one of my Jeeps. Built it. She was really flexy. I was using another brand of lift, and I'd kind of done some tweaks and mixed some stuff together and everything. And I was having a traction issue where my coil was just kind of, I felt like one side was just kind of dancing up and down, and one of my wheels was just kind of dancing on the trails, and realized that my coil was dropping out of the bucket and on the top. And so I actually went up there, met with Will up there, and I mean, what I learned that day not only helped me with my Jeep, but it also helped me with the way I run my business now. Will spent like probably 3 hours with me, man. I mean, just talking to me, put me on the. You guys had the CTI down on the ground at that point where you rolled them out, and
All
you guys
right.
drove up onto it, and
Yeah.
wasn't on a trailer back then, but so
Yeah, those are 300-pound ramps. We rolling.
yeah. Well, no, I saw the guys all fussing with them and everything else. I'm like, man, all right, well, we're gonna do this here, and he put me up there. We pointed out what the issue was. We talked about what products you guys had and everything else. And like I said, I mean, I felt like it was really cool. Will spent like 3 hours with me, and I walked away not buying anything, but I ended up taking just a few months later doing it. But
well, I don't know, man. There's something to be said for the 3 hours he spent with you, but the fact he let you walk out without buying anything, I don't know.
I would have docked his pay. I'm just saying. I mean, I would have docked his pay probably, but
no, that's it. We've always believed in that philosophy, and I know you do too. We hear that all the time. We have lots of jobbers. We have 850 jobbers across this country, and there are some people comment are not doing so good. Not taking care of their customers, and there's ones that the ones we never hear about at all that are doing great are the ones that are usually out there totally taking care of your customers, and you've always had a great reputation on that. So okay, so you do that, you get in there, you end up getting stuff for you, and then you get this whim to go back, because this is your home, right? You were born in Kansas City area?
Nope.
Where were you born? Where'd you start?
I was born in South Texas, down south of Houston, and
but why Kansas City? What'd you go back there for?
All right, fair enough. So that was part of the whole conversation. I told my wife, I when I told her I was going to turn in my notice, I said I don't really have a plan. I said, we've got I've built up a pretty good 401k over the years, and I said I don't have a plan, but what I'd like for us to do is we're going to pick a spot, and we're going to go somewhere, a spot that we've been to, because we were traveling all over the country there for a little while, and told her that, I wanted to pick a spot, that we'd been to that we really liked being. I said, we're going to go back there. We're going to plant our feet, and that's just what we're going to do. We'll no plan. We'll figure it out. And
Wow.
so from that standpoint, we kind of talked for a while. And I keep looking over at her, but I mean, I wanted her to be a big part of that. I didn't really tell her where I wanted to go to or what places I'd love, because I still love Texas growing up there, but I mean, I just let her kind of come to me with a place that she'd liked, and we made the decision to come back to Kansas because we'd fallen in love with the Jeep community here, and of all the Jeep communities across the nation I've been a part of, I honestly do believe that, this is one of the best places I've ever been as far as how helpful a lot of the Jeepers are, and that's a good thing. I'm getting all passionate about it, but no, I mean, it's really true that we met some really good people here, and this community I think is one of the most awesome people that I've ever been around. So
nice.
Cool.
So you get that, you get started up, and you really open the market out there. I mean, I know that there are several of the shops in that region now that do Metalcloak,
Yep.
but you were the pioneer, taking this product that most people didn't know back in the day. And swearing by it. But let's go beyond that. So you have your Wrangler, and what year was that? Your first Jeep? What year was it? Not the Liberty, the Wrangler. We're not going to even count the Liberty, but
Yep. Fair enough. We'll walk away from that one. Good. I'm putting that back in the closet. But we're all good skeletons should be, right? But no, first Wrangler that I ended up getting was a 2010. So I purchased the 2010 Wrangler.
Nice.
And kind of built it out a little.
And that one's gone now, or you haven't held on to it? Is it?
No, so I'm a bad person. So I would take and build out a Jeep, and then I'd get I'll just say I'd get a little bored because I hadn't really. What I found I really loved doing was the suspension and stuff like that, and that's where I fell in love with the Jeeps. Honestly, bumpers one thing, lights another thing, but I mean suspensions where there became it intrigued my mind. How do they work? What makes them work? And you find out real quickly that you can do the same thing on the same type of Jeep on two different Jeeps and you get different results. So why was that happening? And so kind of dove down into that, and that's where I would trade in Jeeps and I would get rid of Jeeps, and my wife hated me because I was spending tons of money on parts that didn't you just buy that for the last Jeep?
Right.
No words.
Yeah, awesome.
You know what's cool about every time I've always stopped at Jay's shop, and again, it's like being around a bunch of family. But he mentioned before, like he didn't buy anything the first time he was out at Metalcloak, and it's amazing to me how many people show up because they want the knowledge, they want the help, and it's not about selling something to somebody. But even for me to run around with the CTI trailer, I'll see that person 5 years later and they'll remember what I told them or what we talked about. And then they're like, hey, I just pulled the trigger. And I'm thinking, do we even make that anymore? Oh yeah, I guess that is still something but it's those kind of relationships that we all that's what we strive for. And I think Jay's done a fabulous job at being that guy that you can go in there and get some help, and he will take care of you. And again, it's building those long time relationships over years that keeps us all going. So yeah,
absolutely. Cool. Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why we've always supported the idea of having just authorized installers across the country, having just your individual shops, your mom and pop shops, because somebody like Jay, whose livelihood really depends on taking care of customers, right? It's not just some big chain store where the guy across the counter may not care, but it's Jay taking care of his customers. And when I was there in 2014, like he had a fan base, right? It wasn't just a bunch of people out there. Well, and there's a fan base there that supports Jay and Stomper because he does such a great job in the community.
Well, what's really fun for me is when I go to Jay's shop, I don't have to work as hard because he's actually the one out there that will go through with the customer. And I mean, you know what? And, nice. I always tell guys that have other shops, hey, these are your customers. Like, you can come out and help them and have these conversations. But Jay's one of the few that actually go out there, and I'm like, oh no, Jay's got this, and he'll walk around and talk to his customer, and that's huge. Like, that's what it is about.
That's right.
Sure.
That's right. All I remember though is pulling into his shop because I just dealt with the shop up in northern Colorado. Was it
Bullhide?
Bullhide, yeah, Bullhide. So Bullhide had me park in a place which was very precarious. I mean, I'm with the RV with a trailer behind it, and I get in this little hill
That's
area.
an interesting shop, yeah.
Yeah, to try to do it. So Jay's at least had a big parking lot, right? But I'm still pulling in, and the entire time I'm pulling in, I'm thinking, okay, am I going to be able to get out of this place without looking like an idiot? Right? Like, okay, this guy's Metalcloak, and he doesn't even know how to drive an RV with a trailer behind it, like, right? So, okay, so you get into this world, and you start building up Jeeps business. So, when did your business open? When did Stomper actually open its doors?
Officially, we became an actual installer shop, professional installers back in November of 13.
Wow.
You know, and even when you came out, you know, we were still at the rent by the hour shop. So I don't know if you guys remember that or not.
Not at all.
So back in the day, you know, we rented a spot by the hour at a DIY kind of shop that we had set up around here. And you know, I mean, first Jeep we built back in November of 13, you know, I mean, I pulled up in my Jeep, grabbed all my tools out of a couple of tool bags, set them in the floor. We'd rented a lift for the hour, and we went through and started installing, and that's where we did our first one, and we were there for a good year and a half, you know, I mean, between
wow. I don't think I had any idea. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah,
What
man.
a great testament to how to start.
Yeah, it was a little squirrely because I mean that shop was open 24 hours a day, and you know you had to lock up all your tools just because of, you know, you had people that would just come through there and they needed a ratchet, so there's a ratchet, and
Now,
I'd walk over and grab it.
Now I have to look at our user agreement for authorized installers because I think that does that qualify in there? Does that violate some of the terms? But,
I don't know on that one.
It was a good thing that you were a friend first, so that's awesome.
Well, and so at that time, I think by the time you got out there in 14, we'd secured permanent space out there, you know. So I mean, we'd secured our own spots, and we always knew we were gonna. Well, we hoped, right? It was a new business. You always hope that you're gonna be able to grow enough to move out and do your own thing, you know. And then really wasn't until I guess 15 that we said, hey, we've just outgrown this space, and we got to have, you know, our privacy and, you know, everything else, you know. So at that point, we reached out and found a new place to go, you know. So
nice. So 15, okay. So you get going from 15, then you've just been growing since then. Obviously, you know, right now you get a lot of JLs, JKs are a big thing for you, or do you specialize in just doing the newer rigs, or do you like to get into the old stuff and build it up too?
Well, just kind of from my market, I mean, most of our business is still the JKs. There's no doubt about that. I think that's going to be a market trend for a little while here. We see obviously increases in JLs and JTs, you know, have really started to kind of come into the market, and you know, the Rubicons that came out, you know, they kind of set it up in the JLs and such, you know, that you know, guys are able to do lesser things per se. You know, you can throw 35s right out of the box, you know. So people are still debating on where to go and what to do with those, you know, I think ultimately from the customer standpoint. But we're seeing lots more of those. That number is increasing. Seems like actually pretty quickly, you know, especially in the last half of last year, we really saw that number really start to kind of dramatically increase. So we're starting to see more of that kind of stuff, but we live in a different market. So we love working on the old Jeeps. We don't have a problem working on the old Jeeps. We're still pretty knowledgeable in those, you know, from just my own tinkerings. You know, I've had CJ5s and various different things like that, you know, and so we still get those, but in my market, they're a lot less, I guess I should say. You know, most of them is going to be JKs in this market for sure. Heavy, disproportionate number.
Wow, interesting. And what's your standard build out there? Are they getting to the point where, you know, the JK owners are now going for the 40s, the bigger axles, and the real heavy conversions?
Starting to see a little bit of that. I think that we've seen a few more larger builds, and that, you know, more of the true custom kind of build, if you will. You know, starting to see more of that, I think. But I mean, we're still seeing a fair amount of, you know, lot of the JKs now are starting to get to that kind of point where, people lifted them years ago and now they're starting to have, suspension related issues or stuff like that. So we're doing a whole lot of swap outs as well on various, just lots of individual components. I think on a lot of the older JKs, we're starting to see swapping out, but pretty typical kind of builds, I think, ultimately speaking, lift tires, wheels tires,
Yeah. More bolt on, less weld on.
Yeah, we're not seeing a heavy volume of that still. Again, we stay pretty busy, so our rate of traffic and everything else kind of puts us into where I have to really manage out the number of weld on things that we have to get into, just because again I think last year at one point we got up to 8 weeks of backlog and work.
Wow.
And to be honest with a business, that can be kind of detrimental. It's a positive and a detrimental at the same time. Customers don't want to wait, and so
Right.
you got to do what you got to do to get them through. So we really have to manage that.
How many bays do you have?
I've got 3 total right now, and not including floor space and various different things like that. I've got 3 lifts.
Which that's never enough, right?
It's never enough, man. You get one project that you get bowed up on because something's different than what you anticipated, or something breaks or whatever, then it can bow you up real quick.
So what, Corey, Jesse, have you guys wheeled out in that area at all?
It's one of my favorite places. Kansas Rocks out there.
Yeah.
Kansas, right,
I got to drive the buggy out there.
Oh, that was just last year, huh?
Yeah.
They actually did something last year, which is cool.
We did, and Kansas Rocks is one of those places that those folks they maintain the park real well, and there's a lot of really good people involved with that place and maintaining it and keeping it, updated. And we went out there was that Frostbite or
the last one we were at?
Yeah.
No, it was the camp and crawl. Because
I think it was the Kansas crawl.
Yeah, because they combined a bunch of them. That's right, because of the COVID stuff. So, but no, it's always a fun place to go. And of course, that was one of my first off-road quote unquote parks that I ever went to, and that was Ultimate Adventure back in 2011. Yeah, kind of funny how it comes full circle.
Right. That's so out there wheeling. What about you? I mean, obviously you're partial to your local area, but what is your favorite wheeling area? Is that where you just go all the time, or what?
No, that's where we end up going the most. I wheel less now as a shop owner than I did before. I don't understand how that works, but
let me explain it to you. It's very simple. It's like, I was an artist before I became a graphic designer, and you asked me the last time I actually did anything that was artistic besides just doing stuff, right? Same thing here. Hey, Corey, how many trails did I go on last year?
Yeah.
Death Valley,
we have that conversation a lot about, this must be awesome working in the off-road industry. Well, there's that word working in the off-road industry that doesn't really usually equate to a lot of free time. So, yeah.
Now, some of our compatriots in the industry, it's kind of funny because you go out to someplace like Moab and they somehow are managing to wheel every day all week. And then there's guys like us who are apparently fools and idiots that actually work with the customers and give a good customer experience all week. But, apparently we got it wrong. I don't know. But so anyway, so what was your last wheeling trip?
My last one, I didn't actually go at all last year. So with everything that was happening,
I beat you by one.
Yep, you beat me by one. So I didn't make it out at all last year. It's kind of disappointing. It's first year, and man, probably, I can't even think of how long, probably close to a decade that I didn't actually make one wheeling trip.
Wow.
It just kind of turned to one of those things with COVID, obviously the row hitting, kind of jacked up the world a little bit. And so, and then we had every year you kind of look at what your forecasts are, right, as far as volumes of work. And that started off real sluggish, right, as people were kind of getting the feels for, are we going to be shut down, locked down, the world, in general. And, and so we kind of started off progressing on a curve that I just wasn't expecting, prior to, the row really getting started. But, then it turned into a situation where all of a sudden we literally within 5 business days had gone from like 2 weeks of backlog work to 8 weeks of backlog work. And from
Yep.
that standpoint, it just really, park opened up and everything at some point, but by that time, I'm still trying to struggle not to get into that 9 week, 10 week, kind of stretch. And it was kind of tough to manage. So I didn't make it out at all, man. I'm terrible. Last time I went out was at Kansas Rocks. That's going back into, I guess, 2019. Pretty muddy day down there, so we didn't get much goodwilling in. But from that standpoint, me and my buddy went out there and we just kind of cruised around the park and all that stuff, and just kind of did some lighter duty trails and stuff like that because you couldn't make it up any of the good stuff. And but yeah, Kansas Rocks is my number one place that we end up going to. Great park, great bunch of guys that run that park, and they do a really good job of trying to expand it and modify it and improve it, and they do a really good job. And other than that, if we want a long weekend, we go down to a Southern Missouri off-road ranch. And that's a really great park as well. So those guys are spectacular to work with as well down there.
How far is that from you?
Oh, it's about 4 hours. So that's why I always say it's a long weekend. But they got good amenities for camping and and stuff like that, and showers, and they do a really good job down there. So
nice. Now, just in general, like looking at your builds, like right now, how many rigs are in your shop right now?
I've got like probably 4 sitting here right now that are I'll say shorter term projects, and then I've got one project that we're trying to get through. We got a 1953 CJ back there that we're trying to work through. And he's got a motor issue, so some of those parts are not actually easy to source, and his was a pretty catastrophic failure. So sitting on that one for a minute as we figure this one out. But,
well, isn't that just, we're just supposed to drop? I mean, he's I take it he's going back to all stock. He doesn't want to just drop a V8 in there, huh?
Yep. So trying to get back into, doing the original motor and stuff like that, and, parts availabilities. And, I think the whole world is dealing with parts availability. It didn't even have to be an old Jeep right now, but, so you're trying to keep it as original as possible.
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate. We've just been pushing. And I think we're at like 1 to 2 weeks right now on most ETAs, and we're just hearing more and more companies are still way backlogged into, 4 to 8 weeks. But it was
or more.
Yeah. What are you running into out there from most of your suppliers?
Yeah, we're running into a lot of your guys' supply chain's been pretty good for us at the end of the day. We can grab most of your stuff fairly quickly. We stock some of your stuff. We've altered our inventory keep, just over the past year, just because, we wanted to keep cash in hand, and so we reduced kind of our inventory just in general. Just in case they shut down everybody, for a month. So we needed to be prepared for that. But your guys' supply chain's been good, but getting a hold of some parts has just been crazy. Parts that we would normally have, next day. Tire industry seems to be really impacted from some of the, the more common brands, larger brands, and stuff we'd have in a day, typically in a normal basis, have turned into, well, I think we waited like almost 8-9 weeks on a set of tires one time already, and e-lockers, various different things like that, all starting to kind of, hard to get a hold of. So seeing it a lot across the board.
So many of those things we forget about, that whether it may be some small part that comes from overseas, but everything else might be made in the U.S. It's just one small thing that makes the whole thing work. And getting some of those things, we've talked to a lot of our industry friends, and Raceline and Warn and Rugged and Milestar, and everybody's kind of in the same boat. And you got to keep, it's just like your shop with doing those quick turnovers. You have to have that to keep some cash flow turning. You can't have something sit there for 8 weeks. But I mean, so much stuff comes over in a container, and it's sitting. Somebody had told me, it was one of our friends out in California that had flown into the Long Beach area. And she said the number of container ships off the coast, it's crazy. There are hundreds of ships out there waiting to get into port. And because of all of the new regulations and whatnot, it's just taken forever.
Right,
So,
right, yeah, and of course, the unions and everything are doing they can to show their power and show their
right.
that they can control it all and be in charge down there. So it is a challenge. I finally, by the way, just everybody knows because all have been waiting. I finally got my black Rhino Garrisons. They arrived like yesterday.
Nice.
It was all that whole thing because of course most wheels come from overseas.
Yeah.
And Black Rhino TSW, which is, by the way, I don't know if it's officially public. I think it happened in December. Is now part of a whole new company. They got purchased and by Wheel Pros, same as like everybody else seems to be getting purchased by Wheel Pros. Because isn't DV8s owned by Wheel Pros now?
I don't know that. I don't know.
I'm not sure on that.
Which one? I'll have to. Now I'm going to have to do a little fact checking on myself here. But it was and I may be wrong, so I better check that real quick before the show is over. But I know that I just did a whole press release on Tough Stuff being purchased by Wheel Pros,
right?
And so Wheel Pros has been out there slowly acquiring stuff. Well, now TSW is part of them as well, and of course TSW is Black Rhino and a whole bunch of other product lines. But I finally got my wheels. But again, same thing, supply chain issues. So I can finally get the Gladiator put together properly. Now, okay, so out there, so last year, I mean, you're obviously doing some cool stuff. What was the favorite build you did last year?
Favorite build that we did. Honestly, I think the favorite one that we did was on an actual Gladiator. So
really,
yeah. So it was the Gladiator's kind of it's starting to come into its own right, I think, in a lot of cases. We're starting to see some more stuff come out there on the market, and obviously everything's been a little bit slower in development and stuff like that over the past year. So but yeah, we built a really nice Rubicon last year that was probably my ultimate favorite build that we did all year. It just really stands out. Just really good performance. We had some tweaking, some navigating to do to kind of. We're still learning these JL or JTs, especially, and what makes them work, what makes them tick, what do they like, what do they dislike, so we're still kind of learning that, but I mean, from that standpoint, that was probably our best build of the year from my standpoint. So
I'm still learning how to I get in the front, I get in the driver's seat. And it still takes me a few minutes to go, what am I doing? Oh, it's going to tell me what I'm going to do. Yeah, it's still an interesting thing to work on. I went to change the air filter the other day and realized that I actually had to take the box almost entirely apart to get the air filter out of the thing. I'm like, okay. Yeah.
All right, fact check. Sorry, Drake Automotive, not.
Drake. Yeah.
Drake Automotive bought DV8. Cover myself, so everybody who's listening to this going and yelling at the screen. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. It was Drake Automotive.
Drake.
So my apologies. I fact checked myself. Yeah, moving on.
Good stuff.
I do recall that now. I do recall that some of the stuff changed labels, so I do remember that.
Well, and even a company like Warn, who now is making some wheels. I've had a set of wheels on order from them it's been 6 weeks on those. Maybe they'll come in March. I don't know.
Well, and yet that's amazing. Amongst all of that, Raceline still managed to release a new wheel. They did that whole aluminum retro look one, right? Yeah.
Well, and so much of their forgings and whatnot come, they have such a huge warehouse down there. And again, the Allied Wheel Corp, the company behind Raceline, of course, is a massive provider of wheels. So I'm sure that they have some different paths for it's all of us crazy guys who want different offsets and all that kind of stuff, where when those come in as a blank, a lot of times they can take material off and give you more backspacing and that kind of stuff. And they can do that there at Raceline. But some of the stuff, if you want a custom bolt pattern on a custom wheel, you're going to wait a while for it.
I think we need to get in the wheel business because there seems to be a lot of everybody needs them. So I mean,
well, and it's the only thing you can really
fenders.
you can change a wheel and tire combination without throwing off the entire axis of the planet in your vehicle. So
right. Of course, you do storing wheels in the massive containers is a whole other game. Getting them packaged out the door. But so that's awesome. So you kind of. What was this Gladiator build? What else did you do to it? Sorry to kind of cut you guys off there.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Well, I had a Metalcloak suspension on it. Ended up doing a bunch of different lights and bumper. We ended up doing some wheels and tires and
What size
on it
tires?
and everything. What's that?
What size on those tires?
37s. So
37s. Nice.
yeah, we that's kind of the new norm, right? I mean, I think that's
Mhm.
kind of an industry-wide joke, is that we always sit there and say that, 35s are the new 33 and 37s are the new 35. And now we're starting to see a lot of guys pushing into that 40 range, and I think in our kind of location, it's not really the norm, I think, just yet, just because of housing designs, guys can't fit them in the garages anymore. And um, but I mean, that's kind of the way it is right now.
And it's no joke how many times we get the question like, hey, what is the height of my rig going to be if I'm running 37-inch tires and a 3.5-inch lift so I can fit it in my garage still? Of course, you respond to that with, all right, here's the whole, I need to have like a formula, like add this plus this minus this times that, what tire size, et cetera, equals this,
Yep.
how you figure that out, right? But yeah, I mean, you got guys running out there with 40s, a 3.5-inch lift, cut fenders, and all of a sudden you put 40-inch tires on. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
My response is that it usually self-clearance.
Right. There you go.
Right.
No, I mean, it is really true though. You do have to, we get that question all the time, how tall is my Jeep going to be? Is it going to fit through my door, my garage door? And I mean, shoot, then you got to start asking questions. Well, when was your house built? Because garages haven't always been the same height on the opening. So, and we do have a fair amount of older houses still in the area and stuff like that, especially depending on where you live around here. But, it's a great
just tell them to
conversation.
air down. They can air down and pull in.
Yeah. Have I talked to you about onboard air yet?
Right.
Well, one of the first places that my wife and I were looking at back in the day, and we were looking in Midtown area. It's a cool little downtown area, Sacramento, and a lot of the garages are detached, and there's like little one-car garage sheds, and this little small 1,200 square foot houses, and it's like I literally at that time I had my YJ. And my YJ with probably a 5.5-inch lift on it, 37-inch tires. And that was literally one of the questions because it didn't have a top. I didn't want to leave it out in the open. Could it fit in? And I was going around with a tape measure, checking out the garage doors because I just wanted to make sure they fit. Ultimately, we didn't go there. Ultimately, my garage ended up filling with junk anyway, and I never used it. So, but I mean, those suburbs, that's fine. I got a 3-car garage now that only has room for a motorcycle, nothing else. It's sad. It's a sad world. Especially when I got a 13-foot high ceiling, and my buddies keep asking where I'm going to put a lift in there. I'm like, no, there's no room. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. So build now. What's in your personal fleet right now? Like, what are your personal Jeep?
Well, technically we've got 5 different ones between.
Wait. Technically, what does that mean?
Well, just meaning that we got one that we're working on. She just picked up a YJ. I know it's got square eyes and all, but
hey, I love my YJ. It's okay.
I do too, man. I tell everybody, YJ, I pick on them for the square eyes and everything, but the honest reality of it, it's the first one badged Wrangler, and it's honestly probably the whole reason why we still have Wranglers today, because it really flipped the market for them,
Right.
But we've got a YJ. My wife drives a 12 JKU. I've got a 46 CJ 2A. Then I've got a 2011 JKU Rubicon, and then I drive the Gladiator every day. So the Gladiator's probably gets the most mileage right now for me. So
nice. And that's what have you done to your Gladiator?
Right now she's just running on a basic lift. Just kind of waiting. I'm still doing all my homework on everything. Looking at your guys' product line as well as, a couple other things, because we always like to test before we actually, get too crazy with things. So, been holding off on doing any kind of really crazy mods to it until some options come out, like for lockers. I think right now all you can still get is the ARBs really. So not necessarily convinced I want to be air on this one. My JK's, airlocked and stuff, but, wheels, tires, front bumper, winch, some lights, just some basic stuff like that. It's not really a monster build. She's meant to be my daily driver for that most part. So,
are you going to focus overland or rock crawl?
Probably not going to focus on the rock crawl from that standpoint. I am talking about taking and doing a fair amount of work to my JK just to kind of get it. I always keep the build mentality that I want my Jeeps to be able to drive fast on the road because I take great pride that I drive to everywhere I go to off road and I drive it back home. Sometimes limping, but she gets me back home. But from that standpoint, I've always kept it that way. And so I'm actually looking at probably going a little bit more off-road oriented with it since it's no longer, needed to be my daily driver per se. So, but no, Gladiator wise, probably going to look more of the kind of the overland path. I don't want to get too crazy. With it, it's kind of, she's got that wheelbase and everything, and we'll see how the world shakes out as far as the off-roading of them, and I'm still a little on the fence. I know my buddies go out and wheel theirs, and they wheels just fine. I'm like, okay.
But it's funny. It's funny as we get older. It's there was always a path. When we built a TJ or an LJ or even the JK, we had a path. These are the things you did, and these are the changes you made. And I feel like with the JL and now, I mean, even for me, the Gladiator, of course, is the newest thing I've owned. And my LJ is a 2004. So I feel like we slow down and we go, okay, now wait a second. Like, this is a different beast. Like, you can't just go, oh, these are the things you do. Well, no, you don't, because like you said, Jay, there's a whole lot of testing to be done. It's so new of a platform. I mean, Metalcloak and with the rack systems that they're coming out with ARS and the adventure rack stuff, I'm in the same boat. Like, I think the Gladiators are going to be a perfect vehicle to take overlanding, and I've overlanded out of my LJ, but the Gladiator is a different deal, and it's a different build. It's different options, and again, there's so many electronics in the thing. You can't just start tearing into stuff, going, "Oh, this will be great." Yeah.
Well, I'm just looking forward to your report after taking it out there, because for our listeners, Corey's driving it from Colorado out to Death Valley for the first time. Is going to be overlanding in a rig that really is more built for that,
Right.
and really enjoying himself, him and Jesse, and then taking it all the way back. And it's going to be great. If that's, I want to do something on the podcast related to that, because I think it's going to be an awesome opportunity.
Well, it was fine taking the LJ last year, but I trailered it all the way to Lone Pine, and I trailered it all the way home. And of course, it's going to be fine. I guess the challenge for me in having something new is if something were to break down, I don't have a scan tool that I'm running with or anything like that. Whereas the mechanical Jeeps, the LJs, TJs, I'm pretty sure I can put it back together. I can get myself out. Whereas this is going to be like, well, where's AAA? Like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, when you first look at those things, man, JLs, JTs, just in general, I always tell people, every time Jeeps come out with a new model, it seems like it takes us a little while to kind of figure out what they were, how they worked, what makes them tick, and because you set up a JK different than you set up a TJ, right? And obviously we know there was a huge transition from how you set up a YJ versus a TJ, right? But honestly, the JT coming out and then the Gladiator coming out, you kind of had that ball rolling just a little bit on figuring out the JLs, but then this JT comes out, and like you said, it's really, I think the overlanding industry hasn't really felt the full impact of what just hit them, with the JT conversation. But I mean, they're quite capable. You just got to build them a little differently. I think we're all kind of figuring out that balance too, that, it's a truck, right? So, I mean, ultimately speaking, to build it for off-road doesn't necessarily equate to it being good on the road and as being a truck. So I think everybody's still kind of filling that one out. We still don't have the warm and fuzzy on, what is the right coil combinations? What are the right shock combinations? Where some guys are driving these things around loaded down with 500 pounds in the back every day. Some of them are riding around empty every day. So it makes a world of difference in how you build them, man. So I mean, we're all still trying to figure it out, I think, ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, so I mean, I'm actually got to, we got to do a little fist bump here because we're all, gladiator guys, right? Boom.
Right.
This is the new world. I mean, I
I'm not
love my gladiator. Well, you're a gladiator gal.
Well, we've talked about getting rid of my truck because I've wanted a JT so bad, but
Yeah, nice.
Be silly if we had two.
I want a JL though.
Yeah, well, you can do that. I mean, got a jail. Although I think we've been kind of selling off our fleet, so we've kind of realized we need room in our shop for stuff, not for storing Jeeps. So our employees are all being able to buy our fleet, and so they're still here, but now they're taking them home. So the Gladiator is now owned by one of our guys, and the two-door is now owned by one of our guys, and the two-door JL. The four-door JK is getting the LS torn out of it right now. Right. The LS is going into the Franken Jeep, and the Hemi is going into the JK. So we're swapping that stuff around. And then the modern Jeeper big Illuma thing that we're calling an Illuminator is just sitting there like gathering dust right now because we don't have time to work on it. Man. Well,
it's
Jay,
good.
It is.
Oh,
it is. It's all coming together. We just got to figure things out. But that's all it is. It's just a matter of time, right? Matter of time.
That's all it takes is just time.
But Modern Jeepers, we had while you heard all the conversation going on, you saw other imagery and stuff that I was floating in because our video went down, and so I had to change that feed and fix it and stuff like that. And so there's a little bit of clips here and there, but we are full back in video, and we were kind of getting to that point where we're going to kind of wrap up the conversation anyway. But it's like all of a sudden the video went down, and I had to fix it. So I had to get my technical expertise in and try to fix this while the two of them were just talking amongst themselves. That's really
what's funny is usually we have some of our best conversations when we go, we kind of relax a little bit and go, okay, well, we're down for a little bit, and then we can have some real conversations. So sometimes that's the best stuff.
It is the best stuff, and quite frankly, it's kind of funny because Corey and I will sit there and do this, and Jesse too will be like, we'll start before we even start the show. We're sitting here catching up with a bunch of stuff and go, whoa, wait a second, this is stuff we should be talking about. This is the good stuff. Right. This is the funny stuff. Right, the best jokes happen before the show starts.
That's right. And usually I sit here and I've got a bunch of notes, and I try to go, okay, well, these are the things. You know what? 9 times out of 10, I don't touch base on any of these things on my list.
So what you need to do is just like type up your notes. Like, this is the stuff I wanted to talk about.
Right.
Compare your notes to the show. Well, Jay, it's been fantastic that you were able to join us, and I mean, we've known you forever. And I was actually had to go, and the reason I sent you the email said, "Have you been on the show?" Because I'm like, I don't remember Jay being on the show, and I'm asking Will, and Will's like, "How do we not have Jay on the show?" It didn't make sense to me, and so it was great to finally get you on and actually have you as the first guest of 2021.
All right, all right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right. So first guest 2021. We have some other great stuff coming up. We have some more and more shops lined up this year, and some other people. And like I've told our listeners, pay attention because there's some people that are going to be on this show that you would never, ever, ever suspect would be on this show. For obvious reasons.
I'll make a promise to Jay, and you can hold it to me, hold me to it. I will definitely. You'll see the CTI trailer out at Stomper this year for sure.
Yeah,
awesome.
That'd be cool, man. It'd be really good to see you guys again. So miss you guys.
Yeah. And the way Corey's doing it these years, we've got, we've already hit our volume. We have 7,500 test results from CTIs across the country that have helped us build our stuff. And so Corey's kind of been taking it on the directive of, it's not a 3 to 5 minute, get them on, get them off. It's a 10-minute conversation, right?
Yeah, we've been slowing things down a little bit and getting to spend some real quality time. And some people, I get it. They just want their picture on the CTI trailer, and we're happy with that. But going to the smaller shops and these smaller gatherings, it's great to be able to actually spend some time with someone and talk to them about what their goals are and what they want to build and what they want things to look like and what struggles they've had and what they're doing. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, fantastic. A couple of quick questions for you, Jay. All right. So this is like the little rapid fire final questions. All right, cool.
Fair enough.
So, all right. Favorite trail in the country?
Favorite trail in the country? I think it's Rattler in S'more is my favorite that I've been on.
Nice. Okay, cool. And favorite mod to your Jeep under $500?
Oof, under $500, man. There's not much on the industry anymore for that.
Right? That new antenna is pretty cool.
Right, it's pretty all right. I
That's
got
why
a
it's
center
a
cap
tough
the other
question.
day. No, probably. I really like some of the KC lights. Their new line that they really came out with. I think it's a good product, so I think it's gonna be pretty cool.
And a new question I recently came up with because of a thread on Metalcloak Owners Club. If you could have anything on your license plate, what would it be?
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh. Anything on my license plate, huh? Oh man, that's a tough one. Man, I don't have a good
It's gotta
answer
be
on my license
Stomper,
plate.
so that's given.
Be naked.
There you go.
I love it. Awesome. Well, hey, Modern Jeepers, this has been another great episode of the Modern Jeeper Show. We appreciate you all joining us. Corey, Jess, you have anything to add?
No, sir. We hope to be able to see everybody out in Death Valley here in about 10 days. And if you've not just signed up this year, plan for next, and hope to see you on trails.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, my friends, thank you again for joining us. And as Corey says, we will see you on the trails.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Be good.